have to.
Something terrible is about to happen, and this time, no one is safe. Episode 7 doesn't just raise the stakes. It completely shatters the illusion that things can ever go back to normal. Just when it felt like Jamie had finally taken control of the chaos around him, the ground starts shifting again. But this time, it's not just about enemies on the outside. It's about danger creeping in from every direction, quietly, patiently, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Starting with Jamie and Claire, we see the emotional weight of his previous decision still hanging in the air. Giving land to the wives instead of the men was bold, even revolutionary. But it also created a tension that hasn't fully settled. On the surface, things look calmer. The women now hold power, and for the first time, there's a sense that balance might actually be possible. But underneath that calm, there's something deeply unsettling. Jamie feels it, and that feeling only grows stronger. There's a moment where he wakes up suddenly in the middle of the night, completely alert, like his instincts are screaming at him. He doesn't fully understand what's wrong, but he knows something is coming. And if there's one thing we've learned about Jamie Fraser, it's this: he doesn't get these feelings without a reason. This isn't fear. This is warning. Claire, on the other hand, tries to hold on to logic. She wants to believe that things are stabilizing, that the worst has already passed. But even she can't ignore the tension building around them. The rich may look peaceful, but peace here has always been fragile. One wrong move, one spark, and everything can burn. And speaking of fire, this is where things start to turn truly dark. Because while Jamie is sensing danger, that danger is already unfolding somewhere else. Fergus and Marsali's situation is no longer just tense, it's explosive. The pressure that's been building around them finally reaches a breaking point. Being a printer in times like these isn't just risky, it's deadly. Words have power, and people are starting to fear that power more than ever. And when fear takes over, it doesn't think. It reacts. Violently. We've already seen hints of this before. The threats, the attacks, the growing anger from the community. But episode 7 takes it to another level entirely. This time, it's not just intimidation. This time, it's destruction. A fire breaks out. And not just any fire. This one feels personal. There's chaos, panic, and a sense of complete helplessness as everything spirals out of control. Marsali's reaction says it all. This isn't just about losing a place or a business. This is about losing something far more important. Someone. Because in that moment, the question isn't, what is burning? The question is, who is inside? And that's what makes this so terrifying. The possibility that Henri Christian could be caught in that fire changes everything. We've seen how much he means to Fergus and Marsali. He's not just their son. He's their hope, their strength, the one thing that keeps them grounded in a world that constantly tries to tear them apart. If anything happens to him, it won't just break them. It will destroy them. And that's what makes this episode feel so heavy. Because for the first time, it truly feels like the story is willing to cross a line it hasn't crossed before. Up until now, there's always been a sense that somehow, some way, things would work out. But now, that certainty is gone. And as the flames rise higher and the screams grow louder, you can't help but feel that this is the moment where everything changes. Just when it feels like the worst has already happened, episode 7 proves that the real damage is only beginning. While the fire leaves behind fear and uncertainty, the story shifts into something even more dangerous: consequences. Because in this world, nothing happens without a reaction. And what we're about to see is how one decision, one secret, and one moment of weakness can destroy everything. Let's talk about William, because his situation quickly spirals into something far more complicated than anyone expected. At first, it seemed like he had finally found something real with amaranthus. There was a connection there, something intense, something emotional. You could see it building slowly, like maybe, just maybe, William was about to have a different kind of story. Not one filled with war, duty, and loss, but something softer. Something human. But that hope doesn't last. Because the truth about amaranthus changes everything. The revelation that she played a role in Benjamin's supposed death isn't just shocking. It completely flips her character. Suddenly, she's not just a woman caught in a difficult situation. She's someone who has been controlling the narrative from the very beginning. And that raises a very uncomfortable question. Was anything between her and William real? Or was he just another piece in her plan? And the more you think about it, the darker it gets. Because their connection wasn't subtle. There was tension, attraction, and a level of honesty that made it feel genuine. But now that honesty feels like a mask. And William? He's the one who ends up paying the price for believing it. Everything collapses the moment Benjamin finds out. And his reaction isn't calm, it's explosive. There's no room for explanation, no space for understanding. In his eyes, this is betrayal, pure and simple. And instead of confronting it like a man trying to save his marriage, he reacts like someone who has completely lost control. He has William arrested without hesitation, turning what was already a fragile situation into something life-threatening. And just like that, William goes from a man chasing love to a man fighting for his survival. This is where things get even more intense. Because being arrested in a time like this isn't just a setback, it's a potential death sentence. There are no guarantees, no fair trials, no second chances. Once you're caught in that system, your fate is no longer in your hands. But this is where Denzel steps in. And honestly, his role here is crucial. He doesn't just stand by and watch things unfold. He takes action. Quietly, carefully, but with purpose. He understands the situation better than most, and he knows that if William doesn't get out now, he may never get another chance. So a plan is set into motion. A risky one. A desperate one. William has to fake his own death. And think about what that means for a second. This isn't just about escaping, it's about erasing himself. Leaving behind his identity, his past, everything that defines him, just to survive. It's a choice no one wants to make, but in this moment, it's the only way out. And the emotional weight of that decision is heavy. Because even if the plan works, what's left for him after? He loses amaranthus, he loses any sense of normalcy, and he walks away from a life that was already falling apart. And yet, despite all of that, there's still something unresolved between him and amaranthus. You can feel it building toward a confrontation. There's anger, betrayal, confusion, all waiting to explode. And from what we see, that moment isn't going to be quiet. It's not going to be calm. It's going to be raw, emotional, and possibly destructive. Because when two people who are hiding the truth finally face each other, something always breaks. And the real question is, will it be the relationship, or them? And just when you think the episode has shown everything it has, it hits you with one final truth. This is only the beginning of something much bigger. Because episode 7 doesn't just deliver shocking moments, it quietly sets up a storm that could change everything for everyone. Let's go back to Jamie for a second, because his instincts were not wrong. That feeling he had, that something wasn't right, it starts to make a lot more sense now. The tension on the ridge, the anger from the men, the fragile control he's trying to maintain, it's all building towards something inevitable. Giving power to the women may have created temporary balance, but it also bruised the pride of the men. And wounded pride, especially in a place like this, doesn't stay quiet for long. It grows. It waits. And then it strikes. There's a strong sense that the peace Jamie tried to create is slowly slipping through his fingers. Not because his decision was wrong, but because not everyone is willing to accept change. And when people feel like they've lost control, they don't adapt, they rebel. That's the real danger here. Not an outside enemy, but something from within. Claire begins to realize this too. She starts seeing the cracks, the small signs that things aren't as stable as they seem. And what makes it even more unsettling is that there's no clear enemy to point at. It's not one person, not one group, it's an idea. A growing resistance that could turn into something far more dangerous if it isn't handled carefully. And the problem is, how do you fight something you can't fully see? That's what makes this situation so tense. Because Jamie isn't just preparing for a physical threat, he's preparing for betrayal. Again. And this time, if it happens, it won't come with a warning. It will come suddenly, and it will hit hard. At the same time, the emotional aftermath of the fire is still hanging over everything. If the worst has happened, if Fergus and Marsali have truly lost something irreplaceable, then their pain could ripple through the entire ridge. Grief has a way of changing people. It can make them stronger, or it can completely break them. And in a story like this, it can do both. What's really powerful about this episode is how it connects all these storylines without forcing them together. Jamie's growing paranoia, Claire's quiet concern, Fergus and Marsali's possible tragedy, and William's desperate escape. They all feel separate on the surface, but they're all tied together by one thing. Uncertainty. No one knows what comes next. No one feels safe. And that's exactly why this episode works so well. It doesn't just rely on big shocking moments. It builds a constant sense of unease. Like something is always about to go wrong, even in the quietest scenes. And that's what makes episode 7 feel different. Darker. Heavier. More unpredictable. Because for the first time in a long time, it feels like the story isn't holding back anymore. Anything can happen. Anyone can fall. And no decision comes without a price. So now the real question is, who's going to survive what's coming next, and who won't? Because if this episode has proven anything, it's that the calm before the storm is officially over.